Good day and welcome to the Sheroes Collective podcast. Today we have with us an amazing, phenomenal woman, Zanele Cekiso. Zanele is a 32-year-old registered nurse, passionate about HIV and AIDS with special interest in adolescent and youth. She uses social media platforms to raise awareness on HIV, but she also does some awareness and profiling of nurses to kind of lift the profession. She provides online education and psychosocial support to those in need of it, and regardless of the geographic location. She's worked in the Northwest for the Northwest Department of Health as a registered nurse in 2016, then moved on to Institute for Health Programs and Systems based in Bojanala District, and as well as working now for Seed Consulting. So this is our connection. Both of us work for Seed Consulting. She is a quality assurance coordinator, so particularly looking at quality assurance of HIV rapid testing. She holds an Advanced Diploma in Nursing Science from the Northwest College of Nursing and a Postgraduate Diploma in HIV Management from the Stellenbosch University. Welcome, Zanele. How are you?
Thank you, Renee, and hello to your listeners.
Hey, so despite all of these things that I've said, there are notable things that you haven't mentioned in your bio. And I'm particularly interested in the fact that you've won awards for your advocacy. Would you mind taking us through that?
So in 2022, I made the list of the most prestigious list in South Africa, which is the Mail and Guardian, 200 Young South Africans. And I also made the list of 100 Africa's Brightest Young Minds. And this year, 2023, I won an award for the community builder, top community builder from the Nurse Hero brand, and also a nurse influencer of 2023. So these are the accolades that I got for the work that I do online.
And we were just speaking before this. I mean, that is phenomenal, right? I mean, when you were growing up, have you always wanted to be a nurse?
So when I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor, but when I actually think about it now, it's nursing that I wanted to do. But because doctors were what was praised more in the community, and helping people was linked more to doctors than it was to nurses. But now that I'm practicing, I'm realizing that it is nursing that I wanted, not medicine. Yeah. There's definitely a difference between nursing and medicine.
No, there is. And I can so resonate with you. So, I mean, so I didn't always want to be a nurse in my case. And my mom was a nurse, and I used to look at her and the long hours she worked, and I was like, oh, I would never, right? And then I registered to do engineering, which is, of course, what my dad wanted, right? He was super excited, taking on a men's world type of thing. And the weekend before I had to submit that papers, I went on a youth trip and met a nurse. And this nurse was so passionate. Now, let me just go back and say my mom isn't completely without influence, because she had always kept me busy in communities. So I was already she was paving the way to this. So similarly, I've heard you say, was it in this week, that, you know, it's a calling for you. So I agree with you. I could do whatever I wanted to. Nursing was like, no, you're coming this way. Do you feel that you fit into the traditional definition or how people kind of frame nurses? Do you think that you fit into that stereotypical?
Early in my career, I could tell that I do not fit into the traditional description of nursing. But I'm also realizing that actually it's not that I don't fit. It's that people have limited nursing so much that they think it is only defined by the traditional nursing, which is in the hospital or in the clinic. But nursing is beyond that. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my social media platforms, particularly TikTok, where I'm being followed by 14,000 nurses. I'm trying to show them that the description of nursing goes beyond the walls of a facility. There is more that we can function in as nurses and be identified as nurses. It's one of the reasons wherever I go, I always introduce myself as a nurse, because I feel the community needs to know that we are beyond, we are capable of doing beyond what the four walls of a facility can ever offer us. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I agree with you. I think that it's such a dynamic career. I mean, similarly to you, you've worked for government, you've worked for civil society. I've done the same, and then also private sector. So it can take you abroad. It can take you into spaces you never dreamt of. I mean, both of us are currently working for a private consulting company. We are considered public health practitioners or professionals, really. And I mean, that a few years ago was not even a concept that anyone thought of, right? I mean, if I said to someone, I remember saying to my dad, I'm going to do nursing, and he was like, you're going to do what? So you're going to be washing patients, and you're going to be, you know, like kind of the maid to the doctor. And I think that is such a false definition or view of nursing. Nursing is so much more, and I think nurses have worked so hard to become autonomous and to be seen as practitioners. Now, on the topic of nurses, you know, our profession gets a lot of bad rap from communities, but also from media. Very often, nurses are associated with things like really, really being impatient, being rude, having a judgmental attitude. How do we go about changing that narrative?
So with, I think you saw that I'm into adolescents and youth, and there's a program that is called AYFS, is Adolescents and Youth Friendly Services. It has friendly services. One of the reasons I started the YouTube channel, because that's where I started documenting my life as a nurse, was because I wanted the public to know who they are coming to see in the facilities. You know, Renee, working for government for 4 years made me realize that the tarnished image of nursing influences our patients, even patients that have never walked into our consulting rooms. They're already working in facilities knowing that nurses are disrespectful, nurses are not caring. So they already walk with that attitude of, I'm in a defense mode. Anything a nurse says, I will fight back. And I think the only thing that we as nurses can do really, it's to demonstrate, more than trying to convince the community that we are actually good people. It's for us to show the community that we are good people. And I encourage nurses to show themselves on these social media platforms. I always say the mainstream perpetuate the negative narrative of nurses. But now we have the liberty of using the social media platforms for people to know who we are. I always say that for the longest time as nurses, people always spoke on our behalf. The government will speak on our behalf. You know, the government will come out and say nurses are devils in white. The community will come up and speak on radio complaining about us. And for the longest time as nurses, we've never had platforms where we could speak about us, our experiences, and the challenges that we face in our workplaces that at times make us to appear as these devils in white. And now with the liberty of a smartphone and data, I think that allows us to use our own voices for the community to know who we are and some of the things that makes us to appear the way we are appearing. I don't think there is a nurse who wakes up every day to choose to be terrible to his or her patients. So nurses using their voices and actually demonstrating who we truly are is what's going to help us repair the image of nursing in the country.
Oh, wow. What a call to action. Take the smartphone and show us who you are, really. But I hear you. I think that very often people don't see all the other things that are happening. And this is probably us speaking from experience, right? You show up at work. I remember one day I showed up with heels and I was working in a primary healthcare clinic, and it was just going to be the day, right? And as I pulled up, the queue went around the building. And I nicely ran back to my car and put on my trainers because I was like, this is not a high heel day, you know? And it's like having to immediately change your mode, because now you walk into the building and you realize half of your colleagues are not there, whether they are sick, whether they have been asked to do other activities. You now need to think out of the box, right? Yeah. So nurses are constantly doing that. And for me, I would urge community members, look at that. Look at the context in which you're painting nurses in a bad light. It's very often when the system has failed us. And so it's not the nurse that's actually to blame. It is the system that is broken in which he or she needs to work and render the service. So people are either not there or the nurse has been ill-equipped. You know, the bane of my existence is when nurses are left behind when it comes to upskilling. I mean, the work we do, quality assurance of HIV rapid testing, very often we look at counselors for this particular thing. And it's like, I just want to scream and say, South African Nursing Council, could you please look at something that protects nurses in terms of training and being upskilled? I mean, I've been privileged. I've worked in the UK, and in the UK, it was protected time to get your CPD points. It was protected time before you took to the ground and started working. So whether you spent 2 weeks reading policy, doing courses, like you couldn't even put up a drip before you'd had a course about putting up a drip. And I mean, you know how it is here, right? Totally see one, do one, and then all of a sudden you're the expert. So also to community members out there to know, nurses are also just trying their best under such difficult circumstances. You get thrown into an HIV clinic you know nothing about, and you need to swim, right? You need to go
and I think it is
time.
concerning. I think it is concerning, Renee, because we are not capacitated, and this is a conversation we were having on TikTok last night, that we are not capacitated. The South African Nursing Council is not giving us the support. At the African Nursing Conference, I asked a question to say, Sango, what is it that you can do for nurses to better support nurses in handling mental health issues that are inflicted by the workplace? And there was no answer for me. And I was really I was actually directed to the employer, to Department of Health. And when we look at the realities that some of the mental health issues that are arising because of workplaces are inflicted by the same employer that we are being asked to ask help from. So it is indeed a cry for help from us as nurses to say to community members, you need to support us, because at the end of the day, we are here for the community as much as we are being paid by the government, but we are here to help the community, and the community needs to embrace us as nurses.
Yeah, no, fantastic messaging there. I just want to take you back to your use of social media. So you use Instagram, you use YouTube, you use TikTok. What made you decide to go that route?
So when I was working as a ComServe in 2016, I used to have or see about 100 patients a day, right? So the clinic had a very large headcount. It had a lot of patients because the facility around it, the health center around it, was closed down. So I would see about 100 patients a day alone, issuing out the ARV treatments. And I would realize how I do not have all the time to educate every patient that walks into my consulting room. I would also realize that there were days where I would be agitated, and being agitated and overwhelmed when a patient walks in, can read the room. They are not even able to say, Sister Zanele, I took bloods last month, what are my results? So patients would walk out without knowing what were their results, and maybe I would also not review, or I would review and write my notes and not communicate with the patients. Then I saw that there was a lack in a certain important component of health, and that is health education. I mean, health education empowers the patient to take charge of their health. And for us to achieve all these targets that we want to achieve, that are set by the likes of USAID, 95-95 strategy, for us to be able to achieve it as a country, we need the buy-in of the patient. As healthcare workers, we can't be the ones that are running at the forefront about this. I mean, patients will continue to default treatment if they don't know why they are supposed to be on treatment. Patients will stop taking the drugs when they feel the pill fatigue, if there is no one who has ever taught them about pill fatigue. So I then wanted to tell people about HIV, the terms of HIV, what is viral load, what is CD4 count, what does it mean to you as a patient, why should you take these drugs, and what should you strive to achieve? Then I said, clearly I can't always be standing in front of my patients every day and delivering health education. And even if I do it, who's going to do it in clinic B? I can't multiply myself. Then I said, I've got social media, I've got the internet, and I think that's what I can use. And the nice thing about it, I love the fact that it allowed me to serve beyond the borders of South Africa. I knew that a person can just type HIV and my name will pop out and people will be empowered. People will get the information that they need pertaining the disease that they are living with.
Okay, now that's fantastic. I mean, we are living in a digital age, but then of course we have things like load shedding and access to electricity and all of that might hamper that really, really, really needy person. But let's hope that if you are someone who's able to actually watch this, that you are then able to download or to share with someone else. So it's not just about that person taking the message. I think it's about sharing that message to as many people as you can. So I mean, you've touched on such a lot. I love the fact that you spoke about having to see 100 people in ARVs, because I know that scenario very, very well. And I think that community should also know there is a standard that is set that a nurse is supposed to see 35 patients. So do the math and think how inundated, overwhelmed, tired, stressed that nurse might be. I remember days not being able to go to the ladies, not being able to make a cup of tea, having to, announce a million times, I'm just going to eat something and come back. So you feel so guilty to even take a lunch that actually, legally, you are entitled to. So, I mean, there are many, many nurses like us. I don't think we are like this anomaly. I think there are many nurses. But then you can also imagine that with years of buildup, that eventually people become so fatigued that, well, actually, I'm just going to take 2 hours now because, over all this time, I haven't been able to. So again, I'm going to implore that whoever is employing nurses look at the conditions of employment, look at what is available in terms of mental health support, because it is a thing. And I think COVID has even exacerbated that hugely. I mean, we see it, we feel it. I mean, both of us, we visit health facilities, we can see the difference. When nurses are showing up disheveled, not really speaking to even their colleagues in the way that they used to. That is not how we show up. And you rightfully said, this is not how anyone has entered this profession. So again, not to make nursing sound less appetizing, both of us are trying to say, yay, choose us, because there's room for you to go anywhere in this world even. So you're not stuck in a particular country or in a particular space. And then lastly, what advice would you give to anyone who's thinking about a career in nursing?
I always say, at this moment, I can literally sell nursing to even a qualified doctor and convince them to change their profession and become nurses. That's how much I love this profession. And I think as much as it has so many imperfections, but it remains beautiful, and it gives one purpose, it gives one a stage or liberty to become who they are destined to be. And I saw it with me. And if you were to ask me the same question, Renee, about 4 years ago or 3 years ago, because I was at a very frustrated stage. It was when I was tired of working for Department of Health and the abuse. And at that time, if you were to ask me this question, I would have said, no, I don't think anyone should ever study nursing, because we are underpaid and we are being abused. We are short-staffed. I probably would have said that. But I always say, back then, what I was experiencing was actually my employer. And nursing is not defined by your employment. I always say to nurses, if you are in an employment that makes you feel like nursing is not the career for you, the problem is not nursing, but the problem is your employer. And that actually means if they can't change that environment for you so that you can fully function as a nurse and actually enjoy your profession, then exit and find an employer that will give you that liberty to become a nurse that is going to enjoy what she's doing and that is going to find purpose in nursing. Whether you are an advocate, whether you are into unionism, nursing has a space for you. Whether you are in sales, I mean, we've got nurses who are doing sales, nursing has a space for you. So I recommend nursing 110% to any young person that wants to get into nursing. And as much as the route is always go to nursing school, complete nursing school, go to Department of Health and experience all these challenges that we were outlining here. But I want people to know that nursing is beyond Department of Health. Nursing is beyond any employee for that matter. And it just houses everyone. It has space for everyone, any character, any personality, whether you are shy or you are outspoken, you will find your own corner that you are going to flourish in the profession. So I would definitely recommend it.
That's absolutely awesome. So I'm part of a group called Nursepreneurs. So just also to add that nurses are starting their own clinics. They are doing, they are consulting. They are doing completely different things to what was traditionally thought. I mean, they're working in pharmacies, in clinics as well. But just think about being your own boss, having your own company, being able to show up and do what you love doing, and being able to do it within your own rules, if I can put it that way. Yes, obviously we conform to the South African Nursing Council legislation and all of that, and the white paper and everything else that we have to. So I'm not suggesting that we're breaking those rules, but just you are able to do something that years ago was not even dreamed of. So yeah. And on that note, thank you so much, Zanele. This was an amazing conversation, which I knew it would be. But yeah, so just on the last note, nursing is a dynamic profession. Anyone could do it. Anyone should be accessing it. And again, I want to advocate that it's non-gender specific. So anyone is welcome to join the profession and make it as even more dynamic than what we are currently speaking about. But nurses are really the foundation of the health system, and we are here to help build that system and not further break it down. So to community members out there, anyone who has been having a different thought process about nurses, I hope you've heard us. We are humans. We are experiencing really, really bad situations within our workspaces, and we are clearly not coping with that properly. So we need more support from community members and any sponsors or anyone that is actually funding nursing services to come out, have a look, how can you actually improve those situations? And to nurses out there thinking about what difference I can make, yeah, you've just heard it. You can use social media, you can start your own practice, you can take opportunities to change what was traditionally seen as this is the work of the nurse. So we challenge you, get out there, allow us to see who you are. Yeah. And as you've heard, this woman has won so many awards just for being herself. So imagine if all of us are out there just showing everyone who we are. What an amazing world. Thank you so much, Zanele. Have a wonderful day. And to everyone listening, please follow us on YouTube and on Spotify. It is the Sheroes Collective Podcast. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Good day and welcome.